Many of you have requested for a video on vocabulary. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the most efficient way, according to me, to learn and retain new vocabulary, because we come across so many new things when we read articles, when we listen to audios, but it is very difficult to retain all of those new vocabulary and verbs that we learn. So I'm going to talk about the most efficient way which has worked really well for me, and hopefully you will also find some value in this method. So according to me, the most effective way to retain new vocabulary is to read and write. So what I mean by this is, whenever you read something, whether it is an article, whether it is a book, anything, you have to summarize whatever you have learned in writing. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to retain or remember the new words that you have come across. So what you should read and what you should write, it really depends on your level. So if you are at a beginner level and you have just started out, I believe French textbooks are the best resources to introduce yourself to new vocabulary. So French textbook could be like Edito or Saison. Now for absolute beginners, it could be difficult to understand how one should follow textbooks like Edito. So I had created another video on that last week. I'm going to link it somewhere here. You can watch that video to understand how you should follow that book if you want to work on it alone or with somebody else. And there are many other questions that you may have about that book, which I've tried to answer in that video. So if you're interested in Edito, then please go and watch that video. So in Edito, you get a lot of opportunity to do speaking exercises and writing exercises. So for instance, if you have read a few paragraphs on a particular topic in Edito, you have a lot of exercises followed by those paragraphs to summarize what you have learned by leveraging the vocabulary and new verbs that you have just read. When I did Edito A1 with my teacher in depth, and I've done all the writing exercises, and I used to get it checked by my teacher. Let's have a look at one of those exercises just to give you an idea that how I used to write. In Edito A1 Unit 5, there was a writing exercise on page 77 and I was supposed to write my daily routine. So I wrote it down. Je me réveille à environ 8 heures et je suis toujours pressée de commencer ma journée. Je me brosse les dents, je me lave le visage et je fais du yoga pendant 30 minutes. Et puis, je prends un verre d'eau tiède. Au petit déjeuner, je prends souvent du lait avec de l'avion. So my teacher highlighted this, the l'avion, and she wrote des flocons d'avion because this is how we should talk about oats. Now, this is how I wrote my daily routine. Now, as you have seen, my writing was at a very basic level because I was at A1 level, but I made every effort to write something, and that has really helped me to have a strong foundation on writing right from the beginning. If you are at an intermediate level, you can definitely continue with Edito. You can do Edito B1 and B2, but you can go one step further and now you can start reading articles. At B1 level, I would still suggest don't go for very long articles. Maybe just try and look for small articles with just 2 or 3 paragraphs. So for instance, if you're interested in a particular topic, for example, environment, you can read some articles in which there are 2 or 3 paragraphs. As we learn a new language, when we read anything in that new language, it gets too overwhelming for us because after reading a few lines, if you don't understand it, we have the urge to go to Google Translator and try to understand the meaning of each word and each line. I would say that is not the right approach. Whenever you read any article in French, your approach should be exactly the way you read articles in English. So read it once, read it the second time. Don't look at any Google Translator. Don't try and look for meaning for any words. For a couple of times when you're reading the article, your objective should be just to understand the overall sense of what you're reading, the overall sense of what the article is talking about. Just try and understand it as per your level. Don't try to look for meanings for each and every word, because if you do that, just after few lines you will be exhausted and you would not continue with the article. So first step, when you are reading an article, just go through it twice or thrice. Now when you read it the third or the fourth time, now is the time when you can utilize Google Translator to translate any sentence or any word that you don't understand. and that's how you can try and understand the meaning of the whole article. Now, when you do this exercise, if you realize that actually you were able to understand it, say 20 or 30%, by not utilizing Google Translator at all for first couple of times, you will feel very confident. You may not be in that situation for first few times when you read articles, but gradually you will reach that point, and even you would be able to understand 50% or 60% of it by just reading through the article a couple of times. And as you are reading the article for the fourth time, you should also take a note of, or you should highlight all the new vocabulary, expressions, sentence formation that you have learned, so that when you summarize it, you would be able to leverage it. And even otherwise, whenever you speak on this topic or you talk about any other topic, for instance, wherein you feel that you can utilize the learnings from this article, you can make a use of it. And then the last step would be to summarize what you have learned. You can just write a small summary on the article, or you can write your opinion on that topic and just try and utilize whatever vocabulary you remember. You don't have to remember everything that you have learned in that article. If you can just make a use of even 20% or 30% of what you have actually read in that article, that would be more than enough. But if you just keep reading and you don't write, trust me, you won't be able to retain all the vocabulary that you have learned. And whenever I say all the vocabulary, I don't literally mean all the vocabulary. I mean even 20 to 30% of what you have read or what you have tried to learn. If you retain that much also, that would be more than enough. Now let me show you one example of how I used to summarize the articles that I used to read. Probably that would also help you to understand how you should go about. I read one of the articles on pollution. If you look at the title, Seule des décisions politiques peuvent régler le problème de la pollution, les gens ordinaires ne peuvent rien faire pour améliorer la situation. It means that only political decisions can solve the problem of the pollution. The ordinary people cannot do anything to improve the situation. Now, I have tried to summarize what I have learned in that article, but also I have tried to put my opinion on the topic. So, if you look at the format, I have introduced the problem, then I have given a couple of paragraphs to describe my opinion on the topic, and then I have summarized it. After that, I got it reviewed by my teacher, and she highlighted some of the vocabulary which wasn't very appropriate, and she suggested other vocabulary, and then she had suggested some other changes as well. On the right hand side, you will see that I have highlighted some of the vocabulary that I've learned, and also some new verbs that I had learned by reading this article. And then on the third page, you'll see that I had created a list of all the new things that I had learned in that article. So this includes some basic vocabulary, some advanced vocabulary, some verbs, and also some connectors, as well as some expressions in French. So whenever I put together all the vocabulary at one place, I would highlight it in green background, so that whenever I want to go through the vocabulary for revision purpose, I would just go through the pages which have green backgrounds. So this is how I used to read articles, summarize them, and get it reviewed by my teacher. Now, once you have crossed intermediate level, or even if you are at intermediate level, the third strategy to learn new vocabulary is to do exam specific preparation. So if you are going to take TEF exam or TCF or DELF or DALF, any exam, now it's time to push yourself and start doing exam specific writing, because that is also one exercise which is going to help you to improve your writing or to improve your vocabulary. Now, I know a lot of people ask this question, then when should we actually start doing exam specific preparation? I would say there is no right or wrong answer in terms of at what level you should start doing it. I believe for TEF and TCF, once you reach B1 level and you can do writing to some extent, for example, you can read articles and you can summarize it, then is the time that you should do exam specific preparation. But it doesn't mean that you have to be 100% comfortable with your writing and you should have rich vocabulary on variety of topics. In fact, as you do exam specific writing, that is also going to help you to enrich your vocabulary on different topics. So when I reached B1 level, I think after about 6 months, in from the 7th month itself, I started doing exam specific writing, and that is when I read many articles on different topics. I used to do a lot of mistakes in the beginning, but that exercise really helped me to improve my writing gradually. So I would say this is the best method, irrespective of what level you are. If you are a beginner, start with simple textbooks. If you are an intermediate level, start with some simple small articles. And if you are at above intermediate level, you can just straight away start with exam specific preparation. Even at intermediate level, you can, as you get little comfortable with understanding what you are reading in articles, you can straight away jump to exam specific preparation, and that is also going to help you gradually to improve your writing as well as your vocabulary. Now, apart from all of these things which I have done to improve my writing and to do exam specific preparation, I also have some additional documents that I got from my teacher. So if you look at these PDFs, each one will introduce you to new vocabulary on a particular topic. You will have a list of vocabulary followed by some exercises, and now which gives you the opportunity to utilize the vocabulary that you have read, followed by some more vocabulary and some more exercises. So if you're interested in these as well, you can download these PDFs from the Google Drive link that I'm going to share in the description box down below. Yeah, so that's it. That's all I wanted to share on vocabulary. I hope you have found this video helpful. Trust me, if you do this practice regularly, you are going to see a lot of improvement in your reading comprehension and in your writing expression. And please let me know after a few weeks or months if you have found this exercise helpful. All the best, and I'll see you soon. Bye.